guys, this is a recap of Season 4, Episode 14 of Tyler Perry's ZATIMA. But before we get to the recap, if you've been to this channel or maybe you're new to the content, feel free to like, leave a comment, and subscribe. So how I like to do recaps, I will give you a character or characters, and then I'll explain what they're doing in the scene. The scenes that I list may not be in the exact order in which they aired in the episode. I like to go from my least favorite or least impactful scene to the most favorite or most impactful. If I have any comments, theories, or observations, I will share them at the end of the video. So without further ado, let me let you know what these characters have been up to. So Tony is officially out of jail on this episode. He's getting bailed out. So he's talking to the guy from the barbershop. And so that's pretty much all that goes on in that scene. I did a little talking about that in the last video. Okay, so with Angela and Sean and Angela have this talk at Angela's home. And she's admits to pushing Sean away. She tells Sean that she wants to take a break from dating because she's been hurt, and Sean says, well, I've been hurt too, and most of the time people assume that the reason why things go bad is because of the guy. And she tells Sean that's not what she's saying. He's putting words in her mouth, and she's actually trying to express how she's feeling, because he says that he's trying to figure out and he can't figure out, and she says she's trying to express it to him. And so she says she wants to take a break from dating to work on herself, and he assumes it's because she doesn't love herself, and she says that she loves herself. That's not the issue. She just has this dating phobia. And Sean says that he understands what she means because he was experiencing that too, and had been experiencing it for a few years. And she wanted to know, how he was feeling when, he was experiencing that, and also what changed for him. And he said that meeting her is how it changed for him. And so he agrees to give Angela her space for the time being, and he'll just play it how she wants to play it. And then so he leaves, and then we see Angela give herself a weight loss shot. Okay, and then we have Zach and Fatima. Okay, so in the last episode there was a brick thrown through their window. So Zach gets up to see what has been thrown through the window. He picks up the brick, and there is a note on it. And so he and Fatima, they talk about the brick, and then we see Deja come to the window, and she's yelling. She's saying, I see the stalker leaving. Do you want me to stop the stalker? And so she looks through the broken glass, and she sees that Zach is undressed, and she goes, ooh, you guys are naked. And then she starts to make jokes about Zach. And Fatima and Zach are annoyed, and they keep telling her that she needs to go and she needs to leave. And she wants to know why they keep, pushing her away, because she's just trying to help with the situation. And so she still continued to make these little jokes about, what she's seeing with Zach and Fatima. And Deja eventually, tells them, well, I guess you don't want to know the license plate number. And so they said, no, Deja, don't leave, And so she eventually leaves. And then Zach looks at the brick, and there's a note on the brick. And Fatima calls the cops. And while she's talking on the phone with the cops, Zach is, getting angry. And so she calls the cops for the cops to come over. When she gets off the phone, Zach wants Fatima to read the note. And so Fatima is a little, scared because of the way Zach is, acting after reading the note. And so Fatima reads the note, and it pretty much threatens to take everything away from Fatima, because she feels like Fatima took everything away from her. So she tells her that she's going to get rid of her and the baby. And so Zach is, he's upset at this point. And he wants to take this matter into his own hands, but Fatima is, trying to calm him down because she needs him in this moment. And so she kind of calms him down and lets him know that the police, are coming. So eventually the cops get there, and, they're talking, and, they say they can file a report and all that, but it's pretty much not much that they can do. And then Fatima and Zach want to know about the license plate number that Deja gave them. And they say that she only has, like a partial plate. So it really wasn't too helpful. And then they, continue to tell them that, they can file a report and that's all they can do. And Zach is getting frustrated. And so he tells the cops that, that's good, and he kind of rushes them out of the door. And he tells Fatima that he's going to handle it. He filed a report like she wanted him to. He's going to handle it. And he's trying to leave. And Fatima actually talks him out of leaving because she knows that he's trying to do something reckless. And so later they have this conversation about him, taking matters into his own hands. He's going to call the guys over and he wants Fatima to leave. And she says, well, I'll go to my parents. And he doesn't want Fatima to call her parents to get them involved. And then Fatima, makes this comment about, when I didn't want you to get involved, with the whole situation with her being stalked and all that different stuff. And I think the Jeremiah situation. And he says, well, that, is different. And so she agrees that those things were different. And then he tells her that he wants her to leave. And Fatima says, well, we can go to a hotel. And he says, no, you're going to a hotel. I'm going to stay here. I'm taking my house back. And so that gets Fatima a little bit excited. And she's also a little upset because, she likes that kind of stuff and she can't participate because she's pregnant. And so he tells her that he's going to call the guys, and she tells him that she's just going to call Angela. So she tries to call Angela and she's not getting any answer. She eventually calls again and leaves a voicemail, and we see Angela's phone on her countertop, and it just shows Fatima calling. And then later we get Zach helping Fatima put her things in his car, because what he wants to do is create this this thing where if Leslie comes around, she thinks Fatima is at home by herself. So he wants Fatima to leave in his car. And so Fatima gets in the car. Zach is waiting on Nathan because he's called Nathan and Tony and Bryce to come over. So Nathan finally gets there. Fatima leaves, and Zach and Nathan are walking into the house, and Deja is on the balcony. And so she's, talking to them. She's flirting with Nathan, and Zach is telling Nathan to ignore her. And then Zach goes in the house, and Nathan goes to get the rest of his weapons. And he flirts with Deja a little bit more. And then when he comes in, Zach is on edge. So Zach pulls his weapon on Nathan. So Nathan gets there. And then later, Tony comes. And Zach and Nathan are on edge when Tony just walks in and they pull their weapon on him. And so we have Tony. He starts to chase Nathan because, Tony was in jail because of Nathan's parking tickets. So they pretty much don't have time for that right now. So they, agree to hash that out another time. And they're going through the weapons and they see all the things that Zach has. And they tell Zach that they're proud of him because the old Zach would have been in the street looking for her. And he says that Fatima, didn't want him to do anything reckless like that would, make him go to prison. And so Tony agrees with that. And Zach says he pretty much has other responsibilities, so he couldn't do something like that. So they talk for a little while, and then Nathan comes up with this idea to get Malachi involved. And because he's the only one really that could handle the Leslie situation, because he's the reason for the Leslie situation. He liked Fatima, and at first Zach was kind of not wanting to do that because he knows that Malachi likes Fatima. But Tony tells him that, he's going to have to be an adult about the situation because Malachi is really the only reason for this whole situation to begin with. So they're going to reach out to him. Okay, so finally Bryce walks in unannounced and they, draw their weapons on him and, he's scared. And he actually brought camera equipment and other weapons and stuff like that. And he's like overly excited because he gets to participate in this whole plan with the guys. And then we see Deja come to the window and they're on edge with her and they draw their weapons on her. And she decides to walk away. And then later we have Fatima and Angela. So Fatima's finally at Angela's apartment and she is, calling Angela again. She's at the door and she's telling Angela, I know you're in there because I can hear the phone ringing. And she's telling Angela, if you have a guy over, get yourself in a position where you're decent because I'm coming in. And, she's joking a little bit. And then she finally lets herself in. And when she walks through the door, she sees Angela on the floor. So she runs towards her, and that's pretty much the end of that episode. That is all for this ZATIMA recap. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment, and subscribe, and I will talk to you later.